to give its final goodbyes. My co-anchor Meredith Helline joins us live from the Florence Center with more on the funeral services for the sergeant. And quite the turnout this afternoon, Meredith.
It was, Eric. All of the seating, the bleacher-style seating around the arena was almost full. They actually ran out of room of seats on the main floor where the family and the Florence Police Department sat, and other close friends and co-workers of Sergeant Terrence Carraway. The funeral was supposed to start at noon. It took over a half hour for everyone that was in attendance to actually fill and sit down for that funeral to begin. And they started with what they said was Terrence Carraway's favorite song about taking a stand for who you are and what you believe in. And our Patrick Lloyd was also inside the funeral this afternoon. He has more on how the funeral went of this decorated officer. Patrick.
For WMBF News, I'm Patrick Lloyd. Meredith, back to you.
And Patrick, we heard from a bunch of people from different law enforcement agencies that worked with Terrence Carraway from his time at the Air Force Base down in Charleston. We also heard from his church family and from his family and friends, someone he mentored that became like a second son to him, and Amy Kawada has more on what they had to say. That was the ceremonial last call for Sergeant Terrence Carraway. It happened at the end of the funeral here today at the Florence Center. Now thousands of people were here today to pay their respects for a man clearly many people loved, an officer, a father, a brother, a son, and the hat he wore today was a coach, a hero. And Patrick Lloyd is live right now with more on his commitment to his community and who he was and who we learned that he was from the funeral today. And Patrick Lloyd, Aaron Edwards, and myself have been here live throughout the day at the Florence Center for the funeral. Now I want to send things out to Nia Watson, who is live at Florence Memorial Gardens, where Sergeant Carraway was buried earlier today. And one thing we learned from Sergeant Carraway is it seems like he was a man that would say, "Gotcha." He always had your back. Multiple people who knew him and loved him and spoke of him today said that those were his two words, letting him know that he was there for you, he was there to support you. And Aaron Edwards heard from one of those people today. She's also live at the Florence Center now with their story.
The life of a hero. Meredith?
Good evening, Eric, and that's exactly what kind of day it was. This parking lot here at the Florence Center was packed today as thousands of people went into the Florence Center to honor Sergeant Terrence Carraway. His visitation, his public viewing started at 9 o'clock this morning. It was followed at noon with a funeral service, and we've been here all day. We had a live show at 11 o'clock today, and even more of you watched from home, watching that show as people who didn't even know him, friends, family, co-workers, law enforcement from across the state, across the country, came here to honor their fallen comrade. Now we have team coverage tonight from across the area. We start with Nia Watson. She's live at the Florence Memorial Gardens. That's where Sergeant Carraway was laid to rest just a short time ago. Aaron Edwards live at the Florence Center with testimony on how Terrence Carraway changed kids' lives for the better through his service as a coach and mentor. And we have Patrick Lloyd, who is also at the funeral today, with a powerful message that his friends had to say as to who he was as a person. And Patrick Lloyd is kicking off our team coverage tonight at 6. And friends, family, fellow officers followed the Carraway motorcade from the Florence Center here to the Florence Memorial Gardens. That's where he was buried today, surrounded by family and friends, and that's where Nia Watson is live now. Good evening, Nia. And you just heard Nia say it, mentor. We've heard Terrence Carraway described so many times as a mentor, a coach, and a friend. And Aaron Edwards is live in the Florence Center now with more on how he was a coach and a mentor and how he impacted people, not just because of his uniform and the leadership he had as a police officer, but also how he impacted kids across the PD as a coach and mentor. Aaron. And that wraps up our team coverage right now at 6. We'll be back here at 7 with more on everything that happened today and what we've learned about Sergeant Terrence Carraway. I'm Meredith Helline. Back to you in the studio, Eric.
But before we get to that, we're going to send things over to my co-anchor, Meredith Helline, who's also been there all day today. Meredith, set the scene for us tonight.
Hey, Eric, it's been a very long, emotional day for the many, many friends and family of Sergeant Terrence Carraway. Now, this scene behind me, it didn't look like this when we first got here. The visitation started here at the Florence Center at 9 this morning, and this parking lot was absolutely packed. I mean, the plans have been set up for days ahead of when this event happened to honor Terrence Carraway. The funeral then got underway around noon today. Again, just absolutely packed with family, friends, law enforcement of all over the state, and the country. I know one of our reporters said they had spoken with people from New Jersey that came down here to honor Terrence Carraway. You know, of course, a very sad day that this area has lost a police officer, a friend, a father, a husband, and a hero, but also his friends and family that did speak, from Darlington County law enforcement to Florence law enforcement to friends from his high school, Male High School, Golden Bears, to the Charleston Air Force Base. They all had wonderful things to say about him. They called him a peacemaker, the ultimate karaoke singer, someone that was full of humor, full of life, and full of love. And Patrick Wood was also in the funeral services with me today. He has more about what was said, more about the character of Terrence Carraway that we all learned a little more about today. Patrick.
Meredith, it's been a draining day, and I know both of us have covered police funerals in the past. I, for one, can say I have never covered one with such an outpouring of support from the entire country.
That's true, Eric, and exactly. It wasn't just here in Florence. I mean, he reached out across the entire area, out to Darlington, the other side of the state, again, touching people from out of state to come down here. And he wasn't just someone that did one thing. He wasn't just an officer, and that's kind of been the point we've been driving home all day. He dipped his hand in lots of things. He wore many hats, and that's why he was so well loved in this community. It sounds like he was definitely a lover of sports, a lover of someone that liked to have a good time, always liked to win the game. We heard some stories about how he liked to play spades, and if he didn't win at spades, then he said, "Everyone, it's time to go home."
Like to sing karaoke as well, I know.
Guy. Yes, like to sing karaoke, an all-around good time. And, you know, it was a very sad day, but even his friends today, they said, you know, we're not going to talk about we're not here for his death. We're here to celebrate his life. And that's what it was. The music was upbeat. The music was beautiful. Yeah. And what everyone else had to say was beautiful as well.
He definitely lived his life the right way. And I think we all can learn from the example that he had while the short time we had him here on Earth. Meredith Helline, again, reporting live for us all day long. Appreciate it, Meredith.